Yeah, my husband.
And I actually, personally,
Yeah, my husband said that.
I said, 2.5 days a week, seeing me those 2.5 days.
Yeah, I think like six
Just keep, keep
girls
everything
four
going.
or something.
That's how people like, right? Right? But it's interesting. Good evening, everyone. Could you please rise and join me in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Euclid Township Planning Commission meeting, August 5th, 2026. This meeting is being recorded and live streamed. I would like to start off with, has everyone had a chance to review the minutes of the July 1st, 2026 meeting? And is there any additions or corrections? If not, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Now I need a second.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. With that, we'll start this evening with the industrial use ordinance discussion for recommendation. Last meeting, we went over and had a lot of discussion. There has been some revisions and improvements, and we're going to hear them and move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to highlight kind of the bigger picture changes to the ordinance, we've added consideration for commercial delivery vehicles. We've bolstered the substantial change in use provisions. We've removed the ability to have on-site power generation for normal operations except for solar. And we've removed the ability to utilize ground wells or surface water withdrawals. In the future, things that, excuse me, I know that you've brought up, we'll look to address topics such as autonomous vehicles and alternative delivery vehicle like drones, load shedding, and microtransit transportation improvements to be considered there. But I think we've got it in a pretty good place. The comments took a little bit longer than we anticipated to work through, but I don't know, feel pretty good about it.
Well, the improvements make it better than it was, correct? And that's what we're looking for. So.
I have a process question, not to do with the proposed changes, but something that has come up in other townships are signing of NDAs of township, maybe possibly planning commission. Would that ever come up for us?
I could see it being proposed, but there's no requirements there's nothing that forces the planning commission or anybody to sign the non-disclosure agreement. And I feel like our ordinance requires submission of enough studies and materials that, I mean, they could try to put it under an NDA. I'm not a lawyer, but they could try to put it under an NDA, but it's got to be submitted. It's got to be public record.
Okay. So that helps protect us to not be put into an awkward situation where we are not, our goal is to be transparent to the public. And so that would be something that since our last meeting, I was thinking about, that we wouldn't want to be put into a situation where we're asked to sign an NDA.
Yeah. I mean, excuse me, it's come up before, not related necessarily to a land development such as this, but I know relating to the Mariner East project, for Energy Transfer to be comfortable releasing certain safety sensitive information, they required the execution of non-disclosure agreements. And those were, Tara and Dan would probably be able to better speak to the township's experience with those. I can say from the county, from my experience when I was at the county, they were all related to public safety impacts. And they claimed restrictions under certain PUC regulations that they pointed to. And, you know, it was helpful to get that information for planning planning purposes. And while we weren't able to release the specific information that had been communicated, we were able to inform the plans that we were developing, and you know, the plans were public.
Yeah, I think where this has come up before is not disclosing the name of the party, the applicant. That, I think that's where it's come up before. Maybe not specific to safety, but more details of like money flow and
Yeah.
who are the stakeholders are.
Yeah. Yeah, we would ultimately review it with our solicitor and
Okay. Thanks,
See how that
thanks for
shakes out.
entertaining the question. It was just something that
Yeah.
I felt like we should get in front of before
Yeah.
it's something that we have to react to.
There's nothing right now that's back looking. In other words, there's nothing before us, even in a schematic that is going to be impacted by this. So nobody can come back to us and say, we changed the rules.
correct. Specifically around data centers.
Right.
You know, there are warehouses that have been built. There are warehouses that are on the books to be built.
Right.
That, you know, their approval, what they were approved for is
In compliance.
still valid.
Right.
But substantive changes to them or existing warehouses would get triggered under the substantial change in use criteria. And we would evaluate that and see if those needed to go back through some kind of approval process.
Okay. So the second warehouse at Happy Days is compliant as far as we're concerned, either or.
As long as they don't make changes that would
Yeah,
trigger.
right. Would trigger this.
Yeah.
Understood.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, do we have any other questions about the industrial use ordinance? I think we had a good discussion with it last month, and this kind of brings it up to date.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend the draft ordinance for board adoption as drafted.
Okay,
I'll second.
okay. The recommendation I have a recommendation and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move forward with that. Thank you. Yep. Okay. Next up is APG Peck Road, 675 Peck Road, preliminary final land development plan.
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Gina Gerber. I'm an attorney with Riley Riper. I'm here on behalf of the applicant this evening. We are here with respect to a plan for subdivision and land development approval for property at 675 Peck Road. This is a little over 10-acre property that's located on the eastern side of Peck Road. You'll see Tara's pulling up the subdivision and development plan for us here. So this is a project that's proposed to take access from Peck Road, and there will be a private road within the development that will terminate at a cul-de-sac. We have 6 lots here with approximately 3,000 square foot footprint of residential homes on each of the 6 lots. So fairly modest development. This property is located in the R1 low residential zoning district, and this development is being pursued pursuant to the residential open space development option. So effectively what that translates to is there's approximately 61% of the property is being preserved as open space with this development. So there is an open space area on the north portion of the property, as well as an open space area on the southwestern side of the property. And if you're familiar with the ordinance does only require about 35%. And so this application is exceeding that by quite a bit here. This is a site that has a stream that bisects the property that runs from Peck Road, basically all the way along the southwestern corner of the property. You've got shaded in the northern part of the property. You have some steep and very steep slopes that, as you can see, the development has been designed to try and avoid as much as possible. That stream in the lower portion of the property and the associated riparian buffer area is also an area that this design has endeavored to avoid as much as possible. So this open space option actually does wonderful things for this particular development, is that it creates areas that are already existing that we don't necessarily need to touch or disturb as part of what's being proposed here. So I don't know if you'd like a little bit more detail on this particular plan, but what you see here are, and each lot is approximately a 3,000 square foot footprint of the home. This is not an exact outline of exactly what the homes will look like on here, but they give a general idea of how much coverage and where the home would be situated on each of those lots. There's also, as I mentioned, the road that is going to be a private road through the development does terminate at a cul-de-sac. We did receive recently some review letters that I think are fairly clean, but there were a couple of details with this development that I would like to walk through with you all, if you don't mind. So one of the comments that came up in the review letters with regard to the sidewalks. So right now we are proposing sidewalk along one side of the private road that is going to traverse the township. We thought that that was probably the best case scenario for the amount of actual pedestrian traffic that you're going to see here. The sidewalk currently terminates just before it intersects with Peck Road. So my understanding is there is no sidewalk out there currently. There have been review letters with regard to that had suggested, Dan, your township engineer had suggested that if we were going to terminate the sidewalk where we are proposing on the plan, that perhaps it would be appropriate to put an escrow in place with the township. So if and when a sidewalk connection is actually put in place here, that escrow could be used to then extend that sidewalk to Peck Road intersection and connect with whatever sidewalk is put in eventually. That does conflict a little bit with the Bowman review letter, which did recommend putting in a curb and extending the sidewalk. The problem with that is the township has recently made some improvements in that area, and that to follow the Bowman suggestion would actually require the township to remove part of the guide rail that's there at this point in time. And so it has a little bit more of a trickle down effect in terms of the township's responsibility adjacent to that sidewalk. So if you all have an opinion on that or would like some additional information on that, we'd be happy to provide it. But I think we were looking for a little bit of guidance from you all just to get an understanding of what you'd like to see there.
I have some questions about that.
Yes, absolutely.
If we can
I was going to ask Dan, go ahead.
jump on that. As proposed right now, how far from Peck Road does the sidewalk go? How far is it back?
I'm going to call up Chris Daly from Howell Engineering, who is our project engineer, and he may be able to opine to that a little bit more than I am. Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening. I'm Chris Daly with Howell Engineering. Yeah, we terminated the sidewalk probably, I'd say about 10, 15 feet away from Peck Road.
Okay, and so explain why not go right to Peck Road or not stop 5 feet from Peck Road? Why is this a concept?
Chris, can you use that? Just a very straightforward.
Thank you. So what we originally were, per Bowman's recommendation, we were going to extend the sidewalk to here and propose a curb ramp at the center of the radius. However, directly across Peck Road, you have the guide rail that's located right here. Mr. Daly presented a concern of, allowing pedestrians access to a busy street with no place to go across. So one other option that we discussed was extending the sidewalk all the way to where Peck Road straightens out to this point to at least have access across the street and no guide rail obstruction. However, we have a pinch point right here because of the recently reconstructed culvert here and the property boundary in this location. We would need an easement to go across that property line. So in discussing it with Dan, another option we came up with was just terminating it at the location where it's shown now, and then escrow be provided for whenever it makes sense to extend the sidewalk to this point or to here to cross Peck Road.
Okay.
Is that entrance existing right now to the,
Across the street here,
no, to the residential area?
there's a
that-
driveway, there's a residential driveway located right
Okay.
here, but this road is not.
The road isn't built. They're proposing to build the
Okay.
road and there's nothing
But-
there other than a driveway right now.
Okay.
Correct.
So basically, the road's close to where the driveway is.
Yes,
Okay. I was just out driving around trying to put it all in perspective.
pretty much exactly right there.
Yeah, gotcha.
So there is an existing residence on that property that is proposed to be demolished as part of this part of this project.
Is that on the, where is that located right now, the existing residence?
It's not shown on this plan, but the residence is roughly right here with the driveway meandering down to this location.
So, son, yeah. I mean, really, the options are basically having the applicant extend to the street, but they'd have to provide an access going across the street. Ms. Gerber had mentioned that it'd be the township's responsibility for the guide rail. I think we could make the applicant remove that section of guide rail or reconfigure that guide rail here from that aspect, or they basically post money in escrow. I guess the question I have about the escrow here is, I mean, is it better to do a fee in lieu of? I mean, if this is something, how long can we hold the escrow legally here I'm asking the lawyer here for that question here for that aspect. I don't know if the township is going to, when and if at all, we're gonna have the opportunity to build sidewalk or do anything into the park through this section in this area, I guess to be determined. It's not safe to bring down pedestrians down to the street and not provide them a safe means of access of crossing the street. Because then you're forcing them out into the road and then you're trying to forcing them around a guide rail. So either it needs to be built to provide access across the street, or you don't build it and you wait until something is done across the street.
So then my question is, how long can the township hold the money in escrow? Because to me, that seems like the simplest thing, but it could be years. I mean, we're talking maybe 10 years or so. So
Yeah,
how
understood.
would you
So-
just turn the money over to the township? Would that
If
be it?
we classify it as a fee in lieu, I believe most of the case law on that and the statutes would say you would have 3 years in order to use that for the infrastructure improvements, and at which point, if it's unused, it goes back to the applicant. If you classify it as an escrow to be held indefinitely until such time as that sidewalk improvement is done, I don't think we would necessarily have any issue with that. I think the amount that we would be proposing to escrow is whatever it would cost to bring the sidewalk to the Peck Road intersection. So it's a fairly small area, and it wouldn't be a ton of money, but it would at least be able to bridge the gap between whatever sidewalk improvement is put in and the terminus of the sidewalk on our property.
Correct. We just don't need to burden the township residents, even with that little bit for something like this.
And I mean,
So-
I don't want to speak necessarily for the applicant. They are here this evening.
Yep.
But I don't think it'd necessarily be an issue.
No?
Yeah.
Okay.
They're shaking heads. They're okay with that.
I kind of feel that, Dan, as an expert, what's your feeling for this?
I just think until the plans are done for what's gonna happen, if anything across the street, my recommendation would be to just post money in escrow.
Okay. Sounds agreeable to me.
The purpose of my question initially, like the first number one thing, is making sure the sidewalk gets down far enough that school kids have a place to walk down to and stand to wait for the bus, because the bus isn't going to come up the cul-de-sac. So you don't want the sidewalk so far back that kids are walking around in the street for more than a few feet.
Understood.
Very
No.
good point.
That's kind of my thought.
But
Gotcha.
the other thing is, it would probably be reasonable to hold that money until the road is dedicated. By that time, the township will have decided yea or nay on what they were doing. We should give an end date to
So
an escrow.
I
Private,
appreciate the thought. It's a private road.
private road.
Yeah.
Oh, it's not gonna get dedicated. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's all.
No, that's okay. It was something, no fault. We had gone back and forth as to whether it was gonna be public or private.
Right.
the width couldn't be made sufficient to meet the requirements for a public street. So we've opted to go private at this point in time.
Question, I guess, for Dan, just about the ordinances. Considering the overall subdivision of the property, is there not something about requiring a sidewalk along the whole frontage of Peck Road?
I think there actually could be, yes. Yes, there would be, they could be responsible for that. So I guess ultimately here is the past discussions as we were looking to do that. It's really not feasible with the culvert and
Right.
the stream and the wetland, the riparian buffers in that area. But yeah, I guess you could potentially request that sidewalk to be put all along Peck.
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly other areas of Peck that desperately need sidewalks. Just thinking about Peck alone, there's a lot of other areas that really need it to connect to the schools and everything else along there, even if it's not this stretch, but just if it's something that we have the right to.
Typically, we've done a fee in lieu
Yeah.
of sidewalks along the frontage. We would request that the applicant give us a proposal of what it would cost to put the sidewalks in, and we would go from there. At this point, there's no sidewalks on Peck Road at all. So if we are evaluating it, we don't know which side of the road the sidewalks would make sense to be on. We are working on an active transportation plan, so I'm sure it'll be
Yeah.
evaluated in the near future.
Okay.
So that was a sidewalk discussion. The other item I did want to bring to your attention is the lighting. So at this point in time, there is only one proposed light on the exterior of this project, and it is at the intersection of the private driveway and Peck Road, as Chris is pointing out there. It's intended as just kind of like a safety feature to make sure that people can navigate to this intersection safely. We've opted not to introduce a lighting plan for any of the residential lots. We thought it might be best to leave that in the hands of the residents to decide how they want to illuminate their individual residential lots and their neighborhood lighting scenario. One of the other things that my client had tossed around is possibly doing like a little monument sign with lighting at that intersection that would serve effectively the same purpose, which is to kind of provide some sort of safety identification lighting in that area. I think the township ordinance is fairly loose about not necessarily requiring it, but if it's required to have a certain standard for what it would look like. So, provides a little bit of discretion and discussion around that. So if you all have any strong opinions on the lighting, then we'd be happy to hear it.
The only thing I will share is that we do not have lights on any of the other roads along Peck Road.
Right.
Big
So
surprise.
That isn't something that we've had for any of the other developments here, and nothing along Peck Road has lights.
Right.
So
So
So,
if you
yeah,
prefer to
it's-
keep it consistent, then that is certainly something we can work with.
Will this road have a name?
Eventually,
Okay, so
What's
just, I was thinking about, like, would it have a street name sign?
it would probably have a street sign and then it would probably underneath it say private road, something to that
Okay.
effect.
I'm against the lighting
Yeah.
I don't think
and
anyone.
and the monument sign, definitely don't want to see. That's my opinion. Just share.
I'll go along with that. We don't need breaking that up. It's just a little, nice little cul-de-sac. I mean, yeah.
Is Reed Road just north of that?
I'm sorry, which road?
Is Reed Road the next road up on north of that, or is it further up? On the northbound on Peck Road. Good Drive, sorry, Good Drive. Yeah. Did they have a light at their intersection? No. Didn't.
Okay.
Yeah. Don't need to. No need to.
So, so far I'm hearing we don't like the single light pole there.
Anyone else have an opinion?
My opinion is it shouldn't stick out
Right.
from it shouldn't, continuity is really
Okay.
critical.
Just blend in.
Okay.
Very good, thank you. And then the final item I had were the waivers associated with this particular project. So there are 6 waivers, some are fairly administrative, one of which is just to be able to review and approve the plan as a combined preliminary final plan due to how far advanced the plan is and the limited impact of this, I think that that would be appropriate in this particular scenario. One of the other waivers is.
Do you
with
guys
regard-
want to go through each one of them and have it, just give your opinion on them or ask questions, or do you want to just have a run through all the waivers to start with?
I think we can just run through them.
Yeah.
And then have any questions. Could you do me a favor? Could you stand a little closer to the mic?
Sure, I was getting
Yes,
some feedback. I
thank you.
didn't want to break all of your
No,
ears.
that's okay.
Okay,
It's
very
not that
good.
loud.
Yeah, thank you.
All good.
Go ahead, Jen.
All right. So the second waiver is with regard to the cul-de-sac. So your ordinance has a restriction that says that the cul-de-sac can be no greater than 500 feet. We are providing a cul-de-sac that is 698 feet in length. It's needed in order to construct the proposed lots outside of the riparian buffer. So there's a riparian buffer area that does not allow our cul-de-sac to be 500 feet. So this is it's a change that's been made to this plan. It's outside of what your ordinance contemplates, but because of the specific scenario and the location of the riparian buffer on this property, this is something that is needed for the project. So the substantive ordinance is with regard to the Peck Road Cartway width. This is a recommendation that Dan did not have an issue with this particular waiver. We're proposing the existing cartway width. We're not proposing to widen Peck Road in any way along the property frontage as part of this application, which I believe is consistent with as it exists elsewhere in this part of the township. There's also a substantive waiver with regard to the curb radii. Your ordinance requires a 40-foot curb radii. We are proposing 30 feet. We don't have the ability to increase the radii because of the proximity of the township's recently constructed culvert, which traverses Peck Road. So that is kind of an impediment that's in place now due to recent township improvements with regard to the culvert. The other waiver that we're asking for is the sidewalk to be on one side of the newly constructed street. This is something we brought up a little bit earlier. It is a waiver request as well. Your ordinance could contemplate sidewalk on both sides of that new street. I don't believe that that would be necessary for this level of development, so we're proposing the sidewalk on one street to accommodate pedestrian traffic here. And then finally, the last and final waiver is with regard to street trees along Peck Road. This was actually a waiver that was recommended to us by Thurkoff, who is your township's consultant, because of the guide wires and the utilities along Peck Road. He suggested that we request a waiver from the 2 street trees that would have to be planted there under the ordinance because he's afraid of a conflict between those street trees when they mature and the existing guide wires along the roadway.
Gina, wasn't there also a waiver request for the fiscal impact study as well?
If we're classifying that as a waiver, yes. So the applicant is proposing a fee in lieu of your fiscal impact analysis.
Just so you know, that fee is currently $2,000 per residential unit.
That was discussed with you, right, Tara? That, doing that fee?
Yeah, the fees on our fee schedule
2,000 per.
per unit,
Per
so it would
unit.
be $12,000.
I guess just another silly question to back up for the cul-de-sac and all that. I think, Mr. Holmes said everything was okay. I'm assuming it's good enough for trucks to get up there.
Yes,
And
we do
do-
have a truck turning template as part of the land development plan set that showed that the emergency maintenance vehicles can traverse the site, go around the cul-de-sac and make their way back out the private road.
Okay.
Who's gonna own the road and the cul-de-sac? Do you have a right-of-way agreement between the 6 property owners?
There will have to be a easement agreement, shared maintenance agreement put in place between the homeowners.
Okay.
Yep.
I live on one of those. It's not as easy sometimes as you want it to be.
Understood. As an attorney, we do our best to make it
Yeah.
easy sailing and, different clauses if there's a conflict and how all of that works. But I do understand that practically not always the simplest situation.
You had
So,
to do that for Newcomen Road too, right? Was that Newcomen Road on the same idea? the access in a new common road, was that the same idea? Was it, you have an easement agreement? Yeah.
That's it, that's all.
But was there only, every driveway was off the public road? Okay. Yeah, that's what we have. All right.
So you're talking about easements and all that. Now there's open space. Who's going to maintain that open space?
That is likewise going to be part of the easement agreement and shared maintenance agreement between the individual property owners. Mind you, the open space is not proposed to be active or necessarily improved in any way. The idea is to keep it in its natural state, much of which is wooded, to order to be able to just provide some, passive recreation area for the residents.
Right. Keep nature at nature.
Yep.
So,
But yes, in the event that there's anything that needs to be maintained or taken care of with respect to that, it would be part of that same agreement.
How's the property divided then between the residents of that open space? Can you explain that?
We haven't drafted that
Okay.
just yet. My guess is the maintenance will probably be split into 1/6 shares. So whatever the cost is will be split equally between the residents. I don't necessarily think we'd do it based on a square footage calculation. But
It's shared.
it would be shared
Okay.
throughout all
So it's not
six.
just like a line would be drawn like at an angle. like this
Correct.
is- Okay.
Yeah.
Will this be a formal HOA or just your agreement between?
I think the idea was to create an HOA in a community here pursuant to statute. Again, that's still being discussed internally.
Can we go back to the street trees, just so I understand
Certainly.
what's in the Therakoff letter? What the summary there is that the 2 required trees as street trees just becomes invalid?
Right, so we were proposing street trees on Peck Road.
Yeah.
As part of the application. At Thurkoff suggested that maybe we not do that because those mature trees are going to grow into the guide wires and cause a
So,
conflict with
but
utilities.
is this just those 2 that are in
It's
that
just those
table are
2.
removed? So it just goes to 0
That's correct.
for that one? Okay.
And now the other replacement trees that are being proposed as part of this project, we've had some good discussions with township staff and consultants about accommodating those trees off-site at some of the township-owned property. So they had some initial ideas and thoughts about where those replacement trees could be used to the township's advantage. So we'll continue to have those conversations and come up with a plan as to how to best utilize those trees off-site.
Okay.
Is that a specific waiver that we need to call out?
I don't believe so. I believe it's
Okay.
contemplated by your ordinance that that would be something that
Okay.
would be permitted if the replacement trees can't be accommodated on site.
No, I just want to add that that requirement's related to the NPDS permit. That's not township driven.
My mistake.
Okay.
So I have a question unrelated to the waivers, but lot 5 now is showing a retaining wall.
Yes.
How tall is that going to be? Okay. Have you guys done any geotech or test pits or anything on the property?
Yeah, we did several test pits for infiltration testing.
Okay.
Yeah.
How shallow is the rock? Because I know what my yard's like. or
I mean,
parts of it.
all the tests we performed for the stormwater facilities, we didn't hit rock at all.
But stormwater facilities are below where you're planning on putting that retaining wall.
So there's one, yep, right where that laser pointer is there. And then we have an on-lot infiltration bed for each individual lot also in the front yard.
Okay.
And I guess we should add, as long as we're talking about waivers, to the extent it's needed, and Dan, I apologize, I'm not familiar with the provision of the ordinance that would require sidewalks along Peck Road. But to the extent that there is an ordinance that would require sidewalks along the Peck Road frontage, we would ask that you consider a waiver for that as well, due to the existing conditions along that, most of that Peck Road frontage being either a stream or a riparian buffer associated with that stream.
Does the other side of the other end of the sidewalk that ends like at the cul-de-sac, like is that just gonna be like a sidewalk end, or is there gonna be like a ramp to get up to that sidewalk?
It's just going to be the end of a sidewalk because we don't want to have a curb ramp to the street. So we just ended it right there, right at that property line.
So when you put in a ramp, you kind of need somewhere to go.
Okay.
So it's in theory, you're not supposed to do that. I mean, from a cul-de-sac point of view here, I guess they could cut across the cul-de-sac and go into the into a driveway depression to get back up on there if you were somebody with a, I guess, a stroller or something to that extent. But in reality here, you're basically going to traverse. If you're going to go for a walk at night, you're going to walk up to the cul-de-sac and you walk back, turn around and walk back, as opposed to forcing people to come out into the street.
Okay. Or you could take a stroll in the forest.
So I'm just checking, Dan, all these waivers they're requesting, you have made notes on? And-
Actually, oddly enough, for some reason, I dropped off a few of them from the consolidated letter. I usually keep all my letter, and I was trying to keep that length down, and I actually cut a couple off, but they all noted on the plan, on the
Okay.
record plan. There was a waiver request chart on the plan, but it's actually not all listed in my letter here, and I kind of like looking at myself as I were going through. I'm like, oh, why did I cut that one out? But yeah, they are noted on the plan, and we had, I guess, previously reviewed with the applicant those items. So, yeah, so, I mean, Tara's also had drafted a preliminary recommendation for you guys to consider. We're all spelled out on that.
Okay.
So the motion needs to include a reference to that plan and that plan date.
Correct.
And
Right.
what's the name of that? Is that a printout here?
It's on the front page.
The, oh, EB Wolf. Well, it's listed though.
Okay. Thank you. I'm just kind of looking over my notes a little bit.
To the extent it's helpful, there's also a waiver request letter that was submitted on July 17th that I think outlines all of those waivers with the exception of the fee in lieu of the fiscal impact study and the sidewalk along Peck Road. So if anybody wants to reference that letter, I've got a copy. Do you want to look at that letter?
It's on the package.
Yeah. Okay.
You're gonna have to include that in your motion as well.
Yeah,
Yep.
I'm just checking the list here.
Yeah, the two items that aren't on that is the waiver for the fee in lieu of the fiscal impact analysis would be waiver number 7 and number 8, to the extent it's required a waiver for the installation of sidewalk along Peck Road.
I see a 6.
So this would be 7 and 8. Yes, there should
Oh,
be
okay,
6
so
on that sheet.
seven is the fiscal impact study and 8 is,
The to the extent required, the waiver for sidewalks along the frontage of Peck Road.
is there a section number for that?
That's what part I'm not sure. Dan, do you by any chance have that? Because I'm not familiar with that specific section.
Okay. We could kill some time for you if you need. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, that's all right. We'll just kind of cross our Ts.
609.3.A.
609.
Point A,
It's listed there, isn't it?
that's the sidewalk ordinance.
Yeah, there's 2 sidewalk.
Yeah, sidewalk on the road and then sidewalk on
On the
Peck
front.
Road.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the one we need.
Yeah. No, okay, we can just keep going. Okay.
One question, Tara, the one that's section 26602.8.8, that's the foregoing of the planting of the 2 trees. Does that need to be stated? Okay.
Yes.
This one is not listed.
Does it caption the third call flutter?
I think that was waiver 6 from section 260-602.8.
Yeah, that's your 6. I'm seeing it on your 6, but I'm not seeing it on our list. So
Got
that's
it.
what-
Sorry.
Yeah.
We want to do this?
Yeah, we
Yep.
actually got rid of one of the waivers and then added a new one. So one of the waivers we don't need is with regard to the width of the new road, since that's now going to be a private road.
Dan, do you have anything you need to add to anything here?
I think everything in my letter here is pretty well covered. Yeah, they need some outside agency permits for, stormwater and PDES permits, for that. I'll ask a question of the applicant. Are you guys still proposing, you have, and I don't know if I've talked about with Chris, you have some disturbance in the riparian buffer area, the DEP 150-foot riparian buffer area, that necessitates some additional plantings. Are you still looking to propose to use township lands elsewhere for those plantings?
Yes, I was going to be sending you an email tomorrow, quantifying that area and possibly setting up another just staff level meeting to keep that going forward.
So I just want to bring to the planning commission's attention, I don't think affects your approval process here where you're at, but the conservation district and PDES permit requires that when you do, they have a higher riparian buffer standard than the township. And when you're disturbing the riparian buffer areas, you have to do riparian buffer restoration work here. So they actually have a significant number of plantings that they need to do in order to meet the DEP requirements. They need to do it within their watershed, and they can end up doing that on neighboring properties, on their property. If they had space to do it, they could knock on anybody's property to do that. They have discussed with us about looking on somewhere on township property to use those plantings. So they will be proposing or requesting the township approval to take some parkland that we have within the same watershed area and do a significant number of plantings. We're considering what we had talked about in the past is Martin's Park, to do some plantings in some areas there. And township is considering, because we like trees and we're not paying for them.
Right.
So that's something that may come about as part of this project here, not a requirement of the township, a requirement of the conservation district and DEP.
But basically, it's on record that they're going to work with the conservation and the township to meet these requirements.
Yeah, so they are required, they won't get a permit unless they can find somewhere to do it. If the townships doesn't find a place for them to do it, they're gonna have to go find somewhere else or they won't get their NPDES permit. Easier to obviously work with the township than finding a neighboring property who saying, hey, by the way, can I plant a whole boatload of trees on your property? So.
And hopefully the township can come up with a area where that can happen.
Correct. And we have an idea or two that we think it might be a good for the township to have some additional plantings for.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Earlier you mentioned when we were talking about lighting, that lighting up on the homes would be by the property owners. What's the plan to actually build and develop these houses? Are they going to be built on spec, or the property is going to be sold off? What's the overall design concept right now?
So I'm Mike Ryan with the development team. Our plan is to develop and build the project out. So most likely we'll do one spec. We're working with an architect right now conceptually. We're excited with those. We're looking at 2 or 3 models. So one spec initially, and then kind of see how the project goes.
So 2 or 3 models. So they're all going to be. We're not going to have a lot of architectural diversity amongst the houses then. They're all going to
So we're looking at a cottage style house. So kind of like a 3-bedroom, up to your traditional 4 or 5 bedroom, 3,200 square feet home.
Okay.
It'll be very similar to what I did up right off Newcomen here, Grace Way.
Right.
Kind of a boutique style subdivision. anytime one of those kind of get proposed, I think it's a good thing for the township here.
And
Raceways in Newfoundland.
Yukon Township, yep.
It's right up the road here off of Newcoming Road here.
And basically, they'd be deed restricted if you did have to sell them off or something, and nobody can afford to buy an expensive lot and not put a decent house on it, hopefully. Would they be deed restricted if you had to sell them off? Or not deed restricted, house size restricted?
I think, Chris, you're showing the max footprint, right?
Okay.
Yeah, we're showing the max footprint that they're
Okay.
proposing out here.
Yeah, I mean, the zoning ordinance will dictate the size house they can do. Doesn't stop someone from building a smaller house.
Right.
I mean, there's no restriction for them to go smaller, but they'll be restricted based upon what the zoning ordinance allows and what the stormwater and everything was designed for, which was the largest possible footprint, so.
Okay.
While I have you, what's up with the house that's there now? When's that going to be demolished?
When?
Yeah.
Once we get approval.
I think it's a hazard as it is now. I've seen it deteriorate over the years. There used to be like a T-shirt rigged up in the window or something. Now all the windows appear to be smashed from what I can see from the street. I don't know if kids are screwing around up there or not. I know I would have been when I was younger. So I'd love to see it go.
And so would we. So, yeah.
I mean, no matter what happens with this, with the development or whatever, like the house is done, right? Like even if you were to sell it, I don't know. Just I'd love to see that gone sooner rather than later.
And that's our plan. I think once we kind of move forward here and get initial approval, we can bring the house down.
And what's going on with the sign hanging from the tree?
I don't know.
The Keep Shimona Park Rooted or whatever it says sign.
I'm not sure.
All right, for like 2 weeks now, there's been a sign hanging from the upturned tree that hangs over the pond
Okay.
that says, I have no idea what it means, where it's coming from, who put it there. So just wondering if you knew where that came from.
wasn't you.
It wasn't us.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it was. So
And Dennis, there are some public here that like to probably
Okay.
have some input too, so.
All right. I got to remember, well, first we need to finish with the board.
Yep.
And go from there.
Just wanna make sure
Is there any other questions, board members? All right, and at this time, we don't have a recommendation, but I'll open it up to the public. If you would like to, you need to voice your, come up to the mic, say who you are, where you live.
Chris, I'm with my wife Sally McWhale. We're the neighbors to the north, and we know Mike's been working on this project for a long time. I'm going to speak to Dan's comment about the riparian plantings off-site. There's ample opportunity in Shimona Park for where those plants could go. So you should look at that as well. My concerns or questions are very basic, and I sent a note to Bobby about them. One was just the comment about demolition. Just want to make sure the demolition is under full permit per DEP regulations for contamination control and whatnot, and we'd love to see it come down too. I don't think Task is filming their second series and episode there, so it'd be good to have it go. I did want to clarify, I guess, on the DEP permit for removal of the pond. Does that also include removing the concrete structure obstruction in the stream as well? Because that was part of the pond infrastructure when it was built, and it's been part of the problem for why there's been ongoing flooding of that stream. So I guess maybe I can turn to you, Chris, and just ask you that question.
Well, I mean, we have to get Chapter 105 permit from DEP, so that's
Part of the
something.
permit, that's my point.
Yep, that's something
Because
we'll work with them on.
It was built for the pond, to divert the water into the pond,
Mhm.
and it's caused flooding for the last 35 years.
Yeah,
So that would be something, I just want to make sure that is captured in the permitting, that should be removed as well.
yeah, I can't guarantee it will be removed, but it's something that'll be discussed with
If it's not
DEP.
removed by you, I'll be taking that to my consideration. I guess the other thing was, your utility plan did not show the electrical service. I guess that has not been worked out with PECO yet.
Correct.
My request would be that if there's an electrical module on the ground, it'll probably be on the north side of that road. I would like to see at least a 10-foot setback from the property line
Okay,
for us, so just keep that in mind when you finalize your
yeah,
utilities.
understood.
And then the other thing, the fourth question was, basically, I couldn't really tell the extent of construction fencing, erosion control fencing, and I would just request that on the north side of lot one, construction fencing be along the whole extent of lot one, between us and lot one.
Okay.
So, Chris, real quick, I forgot to look on that. The grades on that, how does that?
It's not an issue of grading, it's an issue of the piles of dirt that they're gonna have to create on that lot to put in all the recharge beds and whatnot. That whole lot will be torn apart and covered with dirt for excavating the house. So just from purposes of controlling that line and not having an issue, I just want to see a fence go along that whole lot.
For a construction fence or like orange construction fence or a silt fence?
So it could be a silt fence, just something to find that edge and keep any dirt that does end up in a pile of dirt doesn't wash down on our property.
I think your job here, now Chris Daly here,
Sure.
they are, you're in a special protected watershed, Shimona Creek watershed here. You're gonna be using all silt sock, I believe, for your.
That's
entrance
correct.
control.
Silt
Yeah.
sock is fine.
But I don't think we want silt sock going upgrade because it's gonna cause concentrated flow along it. So maybe orange construction fence
Okay. Just
would
something
be
to
the better
to make
alternative.
sure that there's
Yeah.
nothing.
Yeah, I just agree. I think that probably.
Yep.
The last question I have would be, have you guys talked with DEP? When I say you guys, applicant Chris and Dan, have you talked with DEP about any relief from that 150-foot setback from all your stormwater and recharge and control areas, which is forcing the implementation of that 13-foot high retaining wall? Has there been any discussion by the township with the applicant, with DEP, to get rid of that retaining wall?
We've had several conversations with DEP and there's no budging on the tree replacement
Do
requirement.
you have the stormwater plan here that we could flip to for a minute
Sure.
in the set?
Tara does.
I mean, to me, it is absurd that they're forcing you to put all these stormwater controls out that 100-foot, 50-foot buffer. You go down Fort, you're driving along the Shimona Creek for about a mile and you're within 150 feet of Shimona Creek. And the area.
Wanna go to the mic with you? Chris, wanna go to the mic with you? Just so they can.
So all these control areas primarily I guess here is what's forcing the retaining wall. And the difference of those being 150 feet back to this zone here, where they would maintain a 100-foot setback, will not impact the stream anymore, and it will get rid of that retaining wall, which is an exorbitant burden on 6 houses being put in on that cul-de-sac road. I think this is a case in point where, this is why houses are unaffordable, because of this kind of regulation requirement and with no flexibility. I think it's worth at least a conversation with DEP to see if there would be any consideration of relief. Because, I know you as a developer, you don't want to be putting in a 350-foot long, 13-foot high retaining wall. So, yeah, give that back to you. So those are my comments. Sally, did you have anything to offer? Okay, thank you.
From a township perspective, I mean, we don't have an objection to it, but it's not our regulation. This is really between the Conservation District, DEP, and the applicant as far as that goes, that wall and the buffering area. And I mean, if they came back through and were able to slide the stormwater back, I mean, we wouldn't have an objection to it. It would still meet our riparian buffer requirements. But that's kind of out of our realm of ability to manage and oversee.
Dan, I'll just ask a question. Could you at least go with the applicant for a meeting with DEP to support it? Like, I know it's not your position problem.
If the applicant wants to invite us to any of their meetings, but I assume you've already had your pre-application meetings?
We've had several.
Okay.
Yes.
But again, like, this is something DEP could amend in their decision with you, correct?
My experience is
Unlikely.
DEP is not very flexible.
The house is out of the barn, okay, or the horse is out of the barn. Okay, you made the right decision on the lighting. That was the other issue we had. We did not like a 16-foot tall pole with a 27-inch tall fixture at the end of Peck Road. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. And take an advisement, what Dan said, that his recommendations or his things are just discussion, has nothing to do with the township recommendations. So we move forward.
Can I ask a question about that concrete structure in the pond? What would it take to remove that? It sounds problematic.
if it's removed, it could allow more water flow downstream. So it's up to DEP if it's something that we can do as part of the permit of removing the pond, or if it's require a dam removal permit, which could take longer, more time, or they might not even allow it at all. So it's just something we'd have to work out with E DEP.
Have you, I know that usually the 102 permit process takes a lot longer than the 105 stuff. Have you met with the 105 group yet at a pre-application meeting for that?
We have a biologist on staff here, and they've had conversations with DEP about the process. And what we're going to do is we actually need to submit for the NPDES permit first before we can submit for Chapter 105 to provide proof.
105 usually moves a lot quicker from a permitting point of view
Yep.
than the 102. So I guess the conclusion of this is, I mean, we don't have an objection for that being removed here, and we would support that if that helps here from saying that you walk in and say, hey, when they're meeting with the 105 group is saying township is okay with us taking this out or would prefer us to take it out. So if that helps at all. So.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
All righty, thank you. Do we have any other questions, comments? Can I have a recommendation?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to recommend the approval of the preliminary final land development plan with the requested waivers. Tara, you want me to list these? Should I list them? I can. Okay.
You need to-
So so there are 8. Section 301.5 preliminary final land development plan submission. And then there's 2 related to sidewalks. Section 609.3.8 sidewalk on one side of the road. Section 503.3B, the front sidewalk of the property along Peck. The 4th is section 502.10.c to allow for a cul-de-sac length greater than 500 feet. Section 502.1.e to allow for not widening Peck Road. Section 502.8.f to allow for a 30-foot curb radii. Section 408 fiscal impact study, fee in lieu of submission of 12,000. And then the last one is section 602.8 foregoing planting the 2 trees alongside of Peck Road. And also compliance to the review letters, E.B. Walsh letter dated July 29th, 2026, Bowman review letter dated July 29th, 2026, Thuraclough planning review letter dated July 20th, 2026, HRG review letter dated July 28th, 2026, and finally the fire marshal review letter dated July 28th, 2026.
I have a motion. Do I have a second? Second. Kevin, do I have any other further discussion? If not, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, recommendation carries. All right, thank you. Then with that, Tara, do you have a update for the zoning task force?
I actually don't this month. The task force did not meet in July or August. We are looking to reconvene back in September.
Okay, thank you for that. And with that, I will read the announcements. August 6th, Board of Supervisors Workshop, 12 p.m. August 10th, Board of Supervisors Meeting, 7 p.m. August 13th, Historical Commission, 7 p.m. Cadwalader House. August 20th, Environmental Advisory Council Meeting, 7. September 2nd, Zoning Task Force Update at 5 o'clock. And September 2nd, Planning Commission Meeting at 7 p.m. And with that, do I have any comments from the public? Or any other comments from the board? I would like to close with saying that one of our members has resigned. Dan Glenn has resigned, and I wanted to thank him for his time on the board. And with that, do I have a motion to adjourn? Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not. Nobody was good.
I'll second.
And a second?